everybody. Welcome to Green Room Talks podcast, where we inform and inspire performers. My name is LaurenKay, and for almost 10 years now, I've been performing professionally, from singing and acting to hosting and television. And I've met some amazing people along the way who have encouraged and inspired me in the green room. And that's why I decided to create this podcast. I want more people to experience encouragement and have some of the same conversations I've had along the way with my fellow performers. So I had a good week this week. I had a fellow performer encourage me. They were reminding me that I should not compare myself to anyone else, any other circumstance. So we were talking about auditioning and how hard it is when you see all of these different kinds of people coming from all over, and you start to get in your head about how you're going to do compared to them, or what you're going to do compared to them. And, you know, that could be with anything. Sitting outside the casting room and you hear someone belting their face off and you're like, I'm not about to do that. Or you see somebody warming up in a dance call and maybe they're just doing all these technical things and you're like, I'm not about to do that. I don't know. Or maybe you're seeing someone who fits a description of the role perfectly for some, I don't know, casting or a commercial or something like that. And you start to think like, I'm not going to get this job. But don't think that. Don't compare yourself. You just focus on what you have to offer. And you have to remember that you're your only self. Maybe you're your only you. Just don't compare yourself. You have what you have to offer, and no one else can do what you can do. So don't do that. I also want to share with everyone what I had this week for my meal of the week. Maybe I'll make that a thing, because I love going out to eat. I love cooking, and I love going out to eat, and I love food. I love Chopped. I love the Food Network. I love Top Chef. Anyway, so I had this deliciousness. Daniel, it's okay if you want to laugh out loud. I know I haven't introduced you yet, but so I'm going to tell you what I had. I had this perfectly cooked medium rare filet. I had the most perfect Caesar salad. I had the most delicious panna cotta and the most perfect mocha latte ever. It was delicious. And all of this was enjoyed and well received, and that was my meal of the week, and I appreciated it. So I don't know. I just wanted to share with everybody what I had and what my favorite moment of the meal of the week was. I don't know what hashtag this is going to be, but that's okay. I like my steak medium rare, so I think that's the way to have it. But if you like it any other way, that's you. Again, you're unique. But I think medium rare is the right way. That's just what it is. Anyway, today I'm just going to we have a professional entertainer also with 10 years experience. My goodness. Majority of his experience including children's entertainment, educational outreach, and improvisational performing. Mostly and most importantly and the most adorably, a new dad. All of these descriptions. It's I'm so excited. Daniel Collins.
Hey! I give myself a round of applause.
Just a round.
Oh, thank you. Thank you myself.
Thanks so much, Daniel. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in today.
I'm excited to be
You're
here.
good at a silent laugh because let me tell you something. I've had to learn that too. So
You talking about steak made me think. I can't remember the last time I had to say how I wanted my steak.
But how do you like your steak?
Yeah, medium well. Ugh.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I know that's a bad thing. I
know
I'm bad.
Choice, but you know.
But Gordon Ramsay would not be happy with me. No, he wouldn't.
Would you try going up to medium? Would you try?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've had medium and I like it, but when I am given the choice,
you're like medium well.
Yeah, I will say medium well. But if I don't have the choice, I'll be like, oh, well, this is the best I can get.
Okay, so at least you're not like, I'm not having it. Because some people are like, I can still talk to it. And I'm like, yeah, have a conversation and have the meal because it's great. Anyway, well, that's okay. We can still talk and hang out.
I guess so.
Yeah. I was like, get out.
Steak choices.
Steak choices 101. Only medium is the. Anyway, so yeah, that's cool. No, I don't know. I just like my steak medium rare. I've always have. Yeah. So that's that. Daniel, I want to get into talking about yourself. I know that you lived in Orlando as well, right?
Yep.
So I feel we were probably there the same time.
I was there for maybe 4 years, I want to say.
I do the same thing when I tell people how long I've been. I'm like, I was there for like 5 yeah, like 4 years. When were you in Orlando?
Oh, goodness. I can probably tell you when I left, and then we'll work back from there.
There we go. Let's do that.
2010. Well, 2010 was when I started leaving, and I came back for a small bit in 2011. Yeah. So before 2010, I must have been there since like 2007, 2007. So like all together, probably made 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah. So you obviously did performing. You didn't just start performing like last year.
Yep.
So where are you originally from though?
Oh boy, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a hard question for me to answer because I was born in New York. I was born in New York, but I don't even remember it because I was a baby.
Yeah.
And then my family moved to Michigan, and I lived there for maybe 9-ish years. I was like, once I was in 4th grade. It was in the middle of 4th grade, and all of my teachers said, "Oh, you're moving down to Georgia." Then we moved down to Georgia, and they were like, everyone's going to say y'all, and they're going to talk like this. And as a 4th grader, I was young. I had no idea what they were talking about. And I got to my 4th grade class and in 5th grade, and my 5th grade teacher said, "Well, I have an idea." And all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, oh, so that's what they mean. Because she's not talking about the animal. No. And Apple wasn't even popular then, so you can't have an idea.
That's the joke. Like, what do you call a deer with no? What is that? What is that joke?
A deer with no eyes.
Yeah. What do you call a deer with one eye? I have no idea. That is one of my favorite jokes.
What do you call a deer with no eyes and no legs?
I still have no idea.
Still no idea.
Still no. Oh my god. Still. Oh
Still no
my
idea.
gosh. Yes. That's Georgia. That's Georgia. Because I think we talked about, because I'm a Georgia girl originally. Yeah. So I don't sound as Georgia as everybody else does.
That's why I don't like, because most of my life was spent in Georgia, but I
Yeah.
don't.
We don't sound like it.
If I were to say that, the next thing would always be, you don't sound like you're from Georgia. So I don't want to say.
Exactly.
But my parents are from New England, so,
Yeah. They're like, oh, cool, yeah.
I guess I sound New England. I don't know.
Yeah. I've been told, like, there's this, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's the way, it's like this certain American accent. It's not like you can pinpoint it. It's like a news anchor way of speaking. So it's just very American, but there's not, you can't say it's like Northern or Western or Southern or Floridian. I don't know what they, but yeah.
But that, when you say American accent today, like, it's spreading all over, from the south to the north, everywhere. Everyone's starting to get that kind of George Bush sound. And that's becoming the American voice.
That's exactly what it is.
But it is, like, you can still go to Minnesota and you'll still hear it.
It's, and you're
It's
like,
everywhere.
wait, aren't you? I'm confused now. It's like, where are you from?
So I'm like, well, my American accent is the theatrical. I studied how to train my voice in
My diction
theater.
is completely, I know. It's like, but it happens because it's like when you have to just obviously like speak a certain way on stage, it kind of it'll go with you. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's not like you cut it on and off all the time. Some people have to though. Man, that's crazy. Have you heard about, speaking of accents, like if people call in to say like I don't know, an automated service and they're from England, like, you know, the UK, England specifically, it's like they're the originators of the English language, but it doesn't recognize their voice.
Of course.
So they have to like Americanize it. It's kind of crazy to me.
Well, I mean, everyone has an accent.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me that people who have a very strong accent, to me, I'm like, you are speaking normal to yourself. Mm-hmm. But to me, you're not. I'm speaking normal to myself. So when I hear like a really thick accent, I'm like, can you turn it off?
Yeah, is that possible?
Because obviously they've like watched TV and they know that like the way that a majority of, I don't know, the characters they see on TV aren't speaking like them, except when there's someone who portrays their accent.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, do they realize it first, and can they turn it off?
But see, I think it's funny because like for me, when I'm trying, so I've been trying to learn Spanish, and I say trying meaning I haven't tried in about a month and a half, but I am trying. I'm trying. So sometimes when I'm pronouncing things, I think I'm nailing it, but I'm not. Like I cannot, the word orange, anaranjado. It's okay. I probably just cussed somebody out, but like it's not good. And I just think my accent,
it's a lot better than I can do.
So bad. And I'm like, what do I sound like? Am I like saying it like orange? Is that how I sound? Like, you know what? I'm worried about that. So then I'm insecure. So I don't want to even say orange. I'm not going to have any orange in my house when I move to Puerto Rico. I'm not doing it. Bye. So I don't have to say that word.
Perhaps it's vocal placement.
Might be.
Languages are in different places in your.
In the places in
your
maybe
head.
It is. My head. Yeah. So okay. So you went from the Georgia all around. You said Michigan, right?
New York, Michigan, Georgia, Florida.
Man, traveling, world traveler.
Yeah.
World
East
U.S.
Coast.
traveler.
East Coast.
Traveling around town.
Never really been west of that at all. So
yeah. Why? But why go? It's just avocado toast, right?
They change time zones. Like
it's too much.
Yeah.
We are it's our time zone, like 8-7. So we don't have to do the subtract thing. It's like 8 o'clock. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is Eastern
like
Standard Time.
Be
EST.
like us. Yeah.
EST. Just put the B on. It's the best.
Where did you get these things from?
I just made it up.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to remember all of these. But what about your family? So with you and performing, did you come from, I always love to talk about family. Did your family always support you in what you did? And like, where did that start for you as a child?
My mom and dad already have a love for the musical theater. Mm-hmm. And so we grew up listening to show tunes. And then on top of that, my older sister got the acting bug in high school, and she starred in the high school production of Annie. Oh. I went and saw her do that. And then as a kid, I was watching her, and my sister and I we were inseparable. Like we were best buds growing up.
How close? How far apart in age?
3 years.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
And I saw her on stage. And I said, well, I can do that. My older brother was in the production too. Mm-hmm. He was it Drake the butler? Wait, I think like the head butler of the Warbucks household.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can do that. I want to do that. And so I started auditioning and following in her footsteps. And when I got to the high school, I went to the same high school she did. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, now I get to be on this stage if I audition and stuff, and getting small parts here and there. And I'm like, oh, I got to work my way up. I caught it from there. And then like halfway through my high school career, if you can call it a career.
My high school career.
Oh yes, yes. I'll bring my resume to the auditions after calculus, and halfway through that, my dad did stuff like he did Glee Club and stuff in college and whatnot. But then I guess after having the family, it kind of took a back seat. But then I went away for some sort of theater camp. And while I was gone, my entire family, save my older brother, I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother.
Yeah.
They all auditioned for Bye Bye Birdie, a community theater production of Bye Bye Birdie.
Wow.
And while I was gone, they all got a part. And so my whole family was in Bye Bye Birdie. And I was like, I want to do that. My mom and dad were Mr. and Mrs. McAfee, which is just adorable.
Oh my gosh.
And
so yeah, they were performing together. Like this is you're like for real immersed in performing and everything like that. Gosh.
And so I got back from the camp and they were still in rehearsals and I was like, is there any way I can I'd been part of that community theater for a little while, so people knew me.
Yeah.
I knew people who knew the network.
I know, good connection.
And so I got thrown into the ensemble. I forget the guy's name. It's one of the Bye Bye Birdie.
No.
Oh.
I do, but not well enough to know.
He was like a nerd. I can't remember, but I got thrown into the ensemble and I got to do it, which was great. And then there's one part in the thing where there's like audience participation.
Yes.
And so one night when my older brother came to watch, he got pulled up for the audience participation. So we were all in the show, like the entire clan.
You're like, did you get pictures and everything from that?
Yes, there's a picture on our refrigerator at home.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Just always there.
It's always there.
Magnet is a magnet or is just a picture?
I think that one's in a magnet frame.
Okay, look, that's even more than I expected.
Yeah.
I was just expecting like magnet, but you know what? Step it up.
We printed out the 4x6 and just
keep it in your wallet. So what about like improv? When did that come up for you?
Well, when we were growing up, we would have a TV on at dinner time all the time.
Yeah. And
it was almost always when it was dinner time, whatever day it was, I don't remember what days it was, but Whose Line would be on.
Love.
And I would just watch that. I just thought it was hilarious and it was funny, and I really liked Colin and Ryan and Wayne and I mean all the people on there, but I mean those guys were those were the three.
Those were the guys.
Well, those were the three. They were always on it,
yes.
right? And then it was like Greg and Brad and Chip, and those guys are great too. And I just watched that, and it was just really fun for me. It was very funny, and it was just creative, and I don't know, it didn't.
So yeah, it's like for people who may not know what Whose Line is it anyway? So that's like, there was a show before that though, like the one that we're talking about.
There was the one in England with Clive Anderson, but Ryan and Colin were on that as well.
Yeah, so they came, and then they did it again, and that's when Wayne Brady.
Yes.
Also hilarious, like still, but so it's a show, and it's basically centered around improv games, but there's a structure to it, and it's supposed to be like you get points, but they say it in the beginning, they're like, the points don't really matter, so it's like it is what it is, like we're just here to entertain, and
just a silly gimmick. It's the best exposure that improv theater has gotten through television.
I agree.
They've tried to do other things. There was Drew Carey's Improvaganza, which was like a live Vegas show where they taped it and filmed it. There was another one where they did, I remember Colin and Ryan being in front of like a green screen, and so everything that they mimed in the scene would then be drawn on in post-production.
Oh wow.
So it was like they were, it was in the scene, but that didn't hit as hard. And I
don't remember that. Yeah.
I think they're still doing Whose Line. They might have canceled it. I'm so far.
But I think once it was with the Dream Team, with Wayne, and I just remember that as well. Like watching it, and I think it's one of those things with improv. It's like you don't realize that it's one of the most necessary skills to have, but the way that the show, like you said, was formatted, this was true like improv theater being displayed for everyone to see. So it's straight up like you go to a theater just for improv, just to see this is what you do, like let's play this game, let's do that, quick. So it's like those skills and really those things that help you perform just day to day,
Yes.
So it's like that's important
for improvisers. The show was kind of a double-edged sword because it gave them exposure. So when they said, "Oh, come see my improv show,
Yes.
people would be like, well, what is the improv show? Are you doing stand-up? It's like, no, it's like Whose Line, if you've ever seen that. But at the same time, a lot of improv wasn't what Whose Line did.
Yes.
It's. I mean, I've been to improv festivals, seen some brilliant acts. There's one act. I'm gonna name it, and I'm gonna ruin the name because it's so hard for me to pronounce. It's like phonograph. I can't pronounce it. I can't pronounce it.
You just started beatboxing, basically.
They're from Austin, Texas, and I saw them perform. It was a two-person act.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was man and wife,
Mm-hmm.
and they dressed up in these like 50s costumes, and they did it completely in like they did an entire long form scene and completely in the style of like the, like one of those instructional videos, but it like instructional videos era, like
yes,
in the oh jeepers, Mr. like like that kind of like this is Timmy doesn't know what he's doing today. Oh jeepers, Mr. Narrator, I don't know what I'm doing today.
Yes,
It was just brilliant, and they kept the whole persona the entire time, and they're just brilliant improvisers. But like that, like if you were trying to explain that, if you went with Whose Line, it was kind of like, oh, I've seen Whose Line, and yeah, it's funny, but
they don't get
like,
it.
No, it's more artistic.
There's other stuff,
yeah. There's lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
There's lots of other stuff, and so it was a double-edged sword because we gave that exposure, but it was still, that was the only kind of thing that the mass media understood about improv at the time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's like you said, it's kind of that was the only thing people could relate to what they think it is. So yeah. So you live in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just here in Japan for a moment. But how did you get involved with I want to talk about your improv group and how you got involved with that or how that came about.
Well, I volunteer and work with the group Pirates of the Dotonbori. Mm-hmm. I didn't come up with the name. Uh-huh. And actually, it started Pirates of the Dotonbori, and then the creator moved to Tokyo, and he created a sister group called Pirates of Tokyo Bay. So there's two of us in Japan conquering the land with improv comedy. We like to claim that we are a bilingual improv group in Japan. We like to try and say like sometimes like, oh, we're the only bilingual improv group, but I don't know how that works in Tokyo.
Yeah, because
in Osaka.
It's not Osaka. Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I think we are.
Yeah.
Until someone comes up and goes, "Excuse us."
We too.
We just started a group.
Excuse me.
Anyway, it's interesting. I had a lot of improv experience in the States, and ever since I saw Whose Line, I tried to involve myself in every workshop I could. Mm-hmm. I'd go audition for groups in Orlando and stuff, and I even made a 2-man group with someone you're familiar with, Adam Scharf.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
he was what was it, level 2 or 3 at SAC Comedy Lab. He was my instructor. What level was that? It doesn't matter. But he was amazing. He's amazing.
It was level Adam.
Level Adam. And it was great. It was great.
He is one of the most hilarious beings I've ever met and worked with. Anyway, we did that for a couple of years, and we went to festivals with that. It was a 2-man show. And again, that was nothing like Whose Line.
Oh, but it was great.
And anyway, so I did a lot back home, and so now I'm living here, and we're doing this bilingual show, and it's a lot like Comedy Sports, which is like Whose Line.
Yeah.
But the thing is we advertise ourselves as a bilingual group, and we are all bilingual, but the demographic in a bilingual show is very difficult to find. That's probably the hardest part is, well, do you cater to the English speakers, the English speaking crowd? Do you cater to the Japanese speaking crowd? Do you cater to the crowd that can understand both? Like, how do you structure a show to keep everyone entertained? And that's the biggest struggle with the reviews we've gotten, is a lot of the times it's like, well, it was a lot of fun, but I didn't understand this part. And it was a lot of fun, but I didn't understand this part from both,
from both sides.
From both sides, yeah. It's like, well, we don't expect expect you to understand that part, but we don't want you, the audience, to put your brain on pause.
Exactly.
For the next time you'll be able to understand. So we want to find a way to still entertain, but
That's interesting because like that's actually something I was thinking about this week is how it's one of those things where it's hard because let's say the art of comedy or just any kind of performing in general, whatever intent you have, there's a time where I think like it doesn't matter what language you speak, you can still understand. But like you said, maybe a structure, that's where it can be a little different, right? Like, so like the art of comedy, let's say you're not using words. Do you think the audience doesn't matter what language?
Yes. Well, to combat this problem, we have done certain games or scenes, whatever you want to call them, in gibberish. So we just, just kind of talk like this and use broad gestures. And so that's a game the entire audience can appreciate and understand. There are other times that, we just kind of got to throw it to the wayside and go, well, this one's going to be straight up in Japanese.
Yeah.
And the Japanese audience will really appreciate it. And there are other times where we create the game list, and yes, it's improv. We do everything improvise at the show, but of course we create the whole setup and what games we're going to play before that. And when we get to the show, even in intermission, we'll look at the audience and go, all right, well, it's pretty English heavy tonight, so let's switch the games around.
That's great.
Yeah. And
that's, again, like thinking on your feet, figuring out as you go.
It's improv.
Do you think, okay, sense of humor in an audience, like English versus Japanese?
Yeah.
Because I haven't, I've been to other countries, but not to do things like, it's mostly just like singing. And so it's not like I'm going to make somebody laugh while I'm, you know what I mean? So, but here I've realized more with how their sense of humor is and like what they find funny and what maybe, I don't want to say goes over their head, but maybe they're just like, okay, that happened. And you're like, wait. Thought it was hilarious, but it's like, wait, but do you think like, how is that with sense of humor in general? Like, let's say there's a game of gibberish. Is everybody cackling or is it just like from one side?
Yeah, we get a good response with the gibberish because it's a pantomime-y. I'm thinking specifically of one game. We probably have one or two more, but there's one we do quite frequently. Where it's kind of like a game of telephone through gibberish and gesture. And that one is received pretty well because it's a very general, universal, silliness.
Yeah.
And that's what's a great thing of improv is if I had a scripted line where I'm like, oh, this is a really good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's not that funny. Because it's like, oh, he thought that was going to be funny. But like, if like, okay, the scene is Starbucks, go. Oh, this is a really good cup of coffee. All of a sudden, somehow that's funny.
Yeah.
Because I came up with it right then and there. I don't know why. That's just the magic improv. And again, that's a terrible example because that wasn't funny. But
I get it. No, but
you know what I mean.
I understand. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's always interesting to me. But anyway, going back to the gibberish, there is and I can't speak for the country of Japan. I can't speak for the country. I can't speak for any country.
I get it.
I can only speak for myself and observations that I've made. But have you ever watched either the British or the English or the American version? The Office.
Yes.
That kind of awkward situation. It makes your skin crawl, but you still kind of laugh at it because it's like, oh, I've been there before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't go well with the Japanese audience.
Yeah.
They like this is the joke, and laugh it's that.
Like I have presented you a joke. It's like what? Yeah.
Well, yeah, in a sense, that kind of okay. We're gonna put you into an awkward situation to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
they feel uncomfortable, which is the expected response.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
But I feel like it's the evolution of the joke that our joke has. I don't want to use the word evolved because it sounds like it's gotten stronger or better.
I understand, though.
It's changed. Our sense of humor has changed to where we need to be put there to make ourselves laugh. And I don't know where we got that. It's just something in the culture.
Yeah.
And
it just interests me, though, because it's like, there are some things that, let's say, like, I don't know, a good old cat video. Sometimes when you need like a good cheering up, just look up some cats. That's what I do. Or just look up cats all the time. But yeah, it's like there's obviously no language needed. Everybody's like, huh, that's funny. The cat tried to jump off the table, didn't make it.
slipped.
That sounds, yeah, that sounds so bad. Ha, I didn't make it. But it's like, everybody can laugh at that. But it is interesting when you obviously get into interactions with people, and then it's like you said, what maybe, and again, not speaking for all of America, but what we find funny to us, and then to maybe other people, they're just like, well, that's awkward because I wouldn't want to stand by the printer while that happened. And it's like, no, that's not the point. It's like,
Well, and I mean, if it was like an office scene, the work culture is just
completely
totally different.
And that
hierarchies
could be,
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, why would you're not even supposed to talk like that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Like
for both sides,
Yeah. Instead of like the joke of like, oh, he brought in this to the office for them. They're like, I can't believe he's talking to the manager. So,
and that's an observation I've made, but with that in mind, the repeat customers that we've had, the ones who specifically are native, like locals, they will still give a good laugh and chuckle in those, I want to say a bit more American humor temperaments. They come, they let go, they enjoy, and that it's always good to see
good.
that. It's always good to see it got through.
Exactly, bit by bit. So like with comedic timing itself, and understanding that, like allowing there to be room for I'll say the delivery to sink in. How would you say, do you think that's something that is taught, or do you think that's something that somebody just understands with comedic timing?
Okay, so I read a book so long ago. I can't even remember the name of it. Oh, but it was actually about stand-up comedy, which I have never done and I never want to do.
It's like, I can't imagine.
No, it rings true of what I believe as well is I don't think comedic timing can be taught. I don't think being funny can be taught.
I agree.
I think it has to be either you're given it and you just know it, or you have to realize it and learn it through yourself. Like it's not something that you can sit down with someone and go, it's not mathematical.
No.
It's not, there's not a formula. And like, I think even like in a show where there's like a bit of physical humor and the director knows exactly what would make the audience laugh if he did it, but the actor just doesn't have that thing.
They don't get it.
No.
So you're right. It's like it can't be forced.
Yeah.
And like you just said a second ago about how maybe you realize it. I'll never forget, like now I'm just saying I'm funny. That's awkward. No, but it's like I remember there was, what age? I was like 9, or I would think I was younger than that. I realized that I could make people around me laugh, or I made my family laugh, or I made something funny. And instead of being shut down, like, oh, don't make jokes, or, oh, like nobody laughing, or me not being around people to see that, like, hey, what I said, everybody's laughing. Like, I realized that I was that kind of person. So I think that, yes, that's when it's like you understand something about yourself that you have. And if it's not shut off, then you're able to kind of just keep that going about yourself. And of course, everyone may not have the same type of comic delivery, but I think like you grew up in a family, obviously, that was like hey, we're all about performing. So nobody's going to be like, be serious, Daniel. Stop it. It's like, you're like, but it's funny. Yeah. So I think like that, like you said, it's like.
We were all a bunch of maroons.
Yeah. That'd be hilarious to just be around.
Yeah. And you said something very important is I think that one of the things that you can learn if you don't just have it, of course you can learn it, but I don't think you can be taught it. And if someone can teach it, they're amazing. I'd like to meet that person and listen to. I even see like I've seen like advertisements on Facebook, which I want to get rid of, but now I'm talking about it.
Yeah, I know. It's like
I saw an advertisement for like Steve Martin teaching a class on comedy, and I'm like
a master class thing,
yeah,
right?
and that's great. And I love Steve Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of my inspirations, but can it be taught? There's certain things that can be taught, of course. I guess the timing.
That's what I think.
Yeah, but you said, finding your style and also just finding your audience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of those things where do I think I'm funny in my own head, but do I think I'm like funny to everybody else? To everybody else or to the people around me? I don't think so. And that kind of makes me laugh in my own way because
I feel too.
One of my and my wife will tell you the same thing. One of my favorite kind of comedic situations is where I am doing something that's not funny at all. It just cracks me up the most.
It's you.
When I'm like, I'm doing something I think it's hilarious, but no one thinks it's funny at all.
That's hilarious to me.
Oh yeah.
I can be by myself and crack myself up. And I'm okay if I try to tell someone about what I did by myself that I thought was funny and they don't laugh. I'll laugh again and still be proud of whatever it is. Totally fine with it. And it's like, I'm okay. There are times where you're like, huh, that's funny. Da, 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 da. And people are like, yeah. And you're like, no, I nailed it. That's hilarious. Sometimes you just know. It's like you just get it, and it is what it is.
And sometimes you make a joke. I do a lot of deadpan. Mm-hmm. Leslie Nielsen is one of my favorites, and recently I've been watching him in some interviews, and he doesn't turn off, like he carries a fart machine around with him in his pocket all the time, and I've always loved Leslie Nielsen and his deadpan, and I love the deadpan delivery, and sometimes you do it amongst friends and they don't understand you're joking, and then it like just kind of the conversation just moves on and you never go back to what you said. And so everyone, like, if someone were to like go home that day and then just for whatever reason remember something you said, they're like, he said that and that was weird.
Yeah, they never acknowledge it.
We never go back to that was a joke.
My God.
I've lived so many of those moments. And when I think about it, I go back and I'm like, that's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
No one knew that was a joke.
They didn't get it.
No.
Or even better, it's like later on when they go, I remember when you said that. And I'm thinking, you held on to that for that long. Like, we've already passed. That was already passed.
We're done.
Yeah. It's just, oh, God. That's hilarious. No, but yeah, I get it. And I agree. Like, I just think it's something ingrained in you. But like with the audience, I mean, like with people around you, like you said, because it's like people around you are an audience. And then there's the audience where you're on a stage actually formally doing something. Like how smart. Oh, man. How do I say that? I don't say how smart do you think the audience is, but it's like.
Yes, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
A really good friend of mine. Her name's Lara.
Hello.
Lala. She told me that in the audience, there's always 15, and this is specifically for me, 15% that understand my jokes. And then the rest of them don't. And I was like, that's actually a great compliment for me because it's
fine. You're like, perfect.
I'm living in heaven that people aren't laughing at my jokes. You got to get there. Yeah, no, you've got to, and I think that's why it's so important to have like, if you're thinking from a stand-up comedian, or even like a talk show,
Yeah.
to have that warm up,
Yes.
to read
Yes.
where the audience is, like
Yes.
what page are we on. And even in the improv show, we try to structure it so we have a warm up show at the beginning to see where we are. And sometimes it's not that they don't think what they're watching is not entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to say the word funny, because they're being entertained, but to get a vocal response sometimes the audience just doesn't have the energy.
Yes.
And so you feel like you're bombing up there.
Yeah.
And then after the show, you get your written surveys or whatever, or they come up and talk to you and they're, I had so much fun.
I loved it.
It's like,
You're like, did you? Because I didn't hear a thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You were great. And you're like, where's the applause? Now I get, and it's like one thing where there's no energy because they're just like, just got here. Oh, there's, yeah. Huh. Or even giving the audience permission sometimes to say, yeah, like be loud and laugh. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they're like, yay. But if like the warm up is so important because you're saying, hey, use your hands, get loud. Ha ha. It's funny. Laugh. Yes. Slap your neighbor in the face. Not really, but it's like,
right.
Be the most. And then that way, yes, by the time the actual show starts, that's why it's so important. Like pre-show stuff is so important.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like it really sets
not
the
just
tone.
for the performer, the
No,
audience.
not at all.
Especially when it comes to improv, because improv, well, I mean, in any performance it is,
Yeah.
but like I feel like in improv, the audience is part of the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being given them permission and like you said, the energy, it's like, that's interesting because it's like you warm up your body and you warm up your voice for a performance. You need to warm the audience up and have them set up for what's about to happen. It's
Well,
like,
if you think of a theatrical production, just a good old play, you have all your tools. You have, the set, the props, the costumes, and everything, and that isn't needed to tell the story, but the audience prefers it to tell the story, and that's why we have those things.
Exactly.
But in improv, if you were to tell the story, Daniel does air quotes.
Daniel inserts air quotes.
If you were to tell the story for improv, the audience is part of that list of, because they're as required as everything else, because they're helping you. I mean, there are some games where we play where we constantly use the audience to feed us ideas while we're doing the show. It's like fill in the blank. It's like, okay, I'm Little Red Riding Hood and I'm walking to
something,
yeah.
And they're like, ah.
Yeah, and they're entirely part of it.
Yeah.
So you have to warm up that part of and prepare it.
And the brain too. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that also just helps them get loose and have a much more fun time.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's interesting because it really is to help set them up. And then in turn, of course, like the more energy you're getting from them, obviously, it's going to help you be more creative and perform more and get motivated, pump through. I get it. Yeah. Okay, there's some random questions I just want to ask you just for fun. First of all, what are your favorite types of audiences? Kind of still sticking to that.
Oh boy. My favorite kinds of audiences. Oh, I'm going to be a little controversial right out the gate.
Oh, good.
I like respectful audiences.
Okay.
I like audiences that come, they know that it's going to be a fun time and that they're here to have fun. But they also know that, we're in a theater, we're in a show.
Yeah.
And we're here to watch it. Like they know the balance of when I need to. Are we speaking about improv or just in general?
Just in general.
Well, for improv, it's the balance of I know that I'm needed, but I know that when I'm
not distracting,
needed,
not
when
taking
I'm not
away.
Needed. Yeah,
I understand. What about least favorite?
My least favorite kind of audience.
Maybe
I guess no audience at all.
Yeah.
Because then why are you performing?
That's wow. Ah.
Well,
yeah.
That reminds me of a quote that I can't remember from a play that I haven't read in a long time.
Well, that was meaningful and everything you just said. Can't remember the quote, don't know the play, but it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the player from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead by Tom Stoppard, and he mentioned something of why we wouldn't exist if there weren't anyone to play for.
But that's so mean. Like, that's really, I don't know. Maybe I'm just emotional. That's like really tugging at the heartstrings. We're composing something.
Zoom in on the eyes, get the teardrop falling.
Emoji tear. Do they have that? An emoji teardrop? Just the teardrop?
Just the teardrop?
There's like a raindrop.
It could be confused for sweat.
I'm not working that hard right now. But anyway. Oh, gosh. Okay. What's like the funniest or most embarrassing or most random audition or callback, something experience you've had? Like something that happened that you're like, what? But it's funny to you.
Oh, man.
You didn't even say anything, and I was like,
I'm sure there's more, but the thing that comes to mind is it was a community theater show. And I'm pretty sure I told the director this after this happened. I was really young. I must have been like 14.
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore. But I went to this audition. It was for, I can't even remember the name. It was a bunch of nursery rhymes, but they were crazy. and the director had written the show, and the script was very, very silly. And then once I got to know this lady, I understood her sense of humor, and I was like, oh, so now if I were to read her writing, I'd be like, oh, this is her writing. I know who this is.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, this is really silly, and it was like me and my sister were auditioning for it, and maybe like one or two other people, and we were there, and I just thought like the script was just so silly, and we weren't there that like it was like so barren, like the audition was so barren, and I was like, I was looking for cameras. I thought this was a hidden TV show.
Has to be
hidden
a
camera show. Yeah, it's like looking for a red blinking light. I'm like, weird.
Anytime now, you're like, somebody's about to come out.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I specifically remember the moment that I started looking for cameras like in the rafters and stuff.
As you were doing it, you're like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you got through that clearly. So.
Well, and then we got it. We did it, and then that theater grew and grew, and that's the theater we ended up doing Bye Bye Birdie at with my family.
Aww.
That was our first show there, and then we got to know everyone, and it was really nice. So I mean, it turned out really well, but like at the first, I was like,
what?
This is kind of sketchy.
You're like, do I want to do this? What is happening? Okay, that's what you're gonna remember these songs later on. When. How do I say? I want to ask, like, what's the biggest risk that you had to take, like, over like the past 10 years of you in your career professionally? What do you think probably the biggest risk was that you had to take in order to get yourself to the next step or level?
Oh. It's funny to say next step or level for me because I don't know what level I'm at. I even feel bad. I feel like if any improvisers are listening, they're like, oh, he doesn't know anything.
You're like, what? I was like, talking
he hasn't mentioned any names of techniques.
Jeez. I know.
But it's interesting because obviously I'm here living in Japan. And I think if I were to talk about risk, it would actually be outside my performing career, but it was still related. I stopped performing for about almost 3 years.
Wow.
And I was just teaching. And
what were you teaching?
Well, I taught English here for maybe a year and a half. And then I got a job as a music teacher at a middle school, high school academy.
Wow.
It was a private school, and it was mostly all boys. They had just brought girls in the. I was there for a year and a half, and then after that half year, I started my whole entire 1 year as a music teacher, and they just brought a class of girls in.
Wow.
And so they were in their own group, and I did. I taught music, but I kind of just changed it to what I could do, and I just did a bunch of performance. Like, every month I taught a different, like, I was like, okay, this month we're going to do singing. This month we're going to do some dance. This month we're going to do some improv this month.
Was that scary to teach? Like some people, of course, they are teachers. But was that scary for you? Or was that just like, kind of like, oh my gosh, like I'm teaching human beings something?
Well, I have been teaching for a long time, and I'd not taught properly an entire year's worth of. I've not created a year's worth of curriculum before.
Exactly.
That was the scariest part for me. But getting into the classroom, it was easy.
Yeah,
like that was
you're
like,
just like,
boom,
I know how to do that.
We're going, yeah.
But just like the whole point of just kind of stopping this whole performing thing to go do that, and then you're like, oh, like I kind of went out of the loop for a while.
Yes, well, and it wasn't so unfamiliar to me. It wasn't unfamiliar to me because I love teaching.
Yeah.
I obviously have a passion for it. I've been doing it. I mean, I've done educational theater. I've been doing educational outreach, children's theater, until I moved away from Orlando. Like, since I could remember, like almost every summer I was teaching summer camps, theater camps to kids. So for me, it was a lot like a really, really, really long summer theater camp, a whole year long. And it did take a toll on me because there's part of me that really likes to perform and to have an audience. And the classroom is not an audience. It's, there are times where you can use certain techniques, but, you can't treat them like an audience because it's a whole different ballgame. It's a
different thing, yeah.
It's a very personal level of managing things. And so there were times where I got to do some film work, some TV work while I was at the school, but it was very few and far between. And so it took an emotional toll on me. And there are times where it's this weird split for me because I'm like, well, I really want to teach again. Yeah. But I don't want that to be my career. But then when I'm teaching, I'm like, well, I want to perform here.
You're like stuck in the middle.
Yeah. And so being in that children's theater, educational theater kind of ballgame was very satisfying for me. And I didn't realize that until now, where I can't have the best of both worlds. So, that was probably the biggest risk for me because not only was all that teaching at that time a change in career, but it was a complete change of location. That's when I first moved over.
Got it.
Here.
To Japan,
Yeah, to Japan. And so that was a huge risk all around.
But you just did it, and you just kept moving.
Yeah, and I feel like from that moment there's been a lot of steps up and levels up in my life.
Yes.
But skill-wise, like performance, like have I leveled up? It's always hard for me to judge
because we're always learning and we're always
I've never, because and you're so judgmental of yourself.
Always.
Yes.
It never. That's what I was saying at the beginning. It's like you cannot compare yourself to someone else, but at the same time, it happens all the time. And like you're like, oh, I should be more this, or why am I so that?
But you can compare yourself to you.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what eats you away sometimes. So you've got to remember to take a step back and go, hey, you're working, so that's something. I going off of what you said, comparing yourself to others, is I read this book long ago. I hope I say the right name. It's Audition. Have you read Audition by, I think it's Michael Shurtleff?
No.
It's a bit dated now, but he's a casting director for shows on Broadway. But I don't think it was musical. I think he's a play casting director. Again, I read this a really long time ago, so I might even be getting that wrong. There are people listening going, "No, that's not right."
I hope they write in and tell us what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm going to check.
Please correct me. Please correct me. But I specifically remember this one snippet he talked about, where, and you kind of touched upon this in your first episode. You were talking about auditions, where casting directors. They're looking for a specific product, and you're the store, and you cannot get a part because the casting director sees you and you remind him of his ex-wife. Like that, it could be just be that.
Could be
you
that.
could be perfect for
Yes.
it, but just because of that, and you'll never know that. And you go home, and so there's no reason to think, why did she get the part? Why did he get the part?
Why did I?
There's no why in it. It's just it's the same as if you are a store and you have these goods, and there's a chain open next to you, and they go to the store, they go to the chain store, and they buy it there. It's like, well, why did they buy it there? I have it here. It's just like, well,
they went to where they wanted to get it. They just happened to go to that store.
Yeah,
it's
but
like, that's what it is.
if you look at the chain store, they had the brand that they wanted. You didn't have
exactly
that brand.
Right.
You had your own mom and pop's brand.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and so you've just got to keep giving your product out until it hits, and and then once there's demand for your product, then it becomes a different thing. But it's a weird supply
Exactly.
without a demand. Like you just gotta constantly supply, even though there's no demand yet, until there is demand.
Gosh, that's exactly right.
And I don't want to make it sound like it's just a battle through time, because like if you constantly supply, all of a sudden there will be demand. But you've just gotta.
But that's a reality.
Yeah.
And it's always changing. But it is one of those things where it's like it's a practice where you just can't dwell on the whys so much in this line of business. Like you just gotta be like, well, that didn't happen. Moving right along. Sometimes you will never know. Like you said, you could just remind them. You could remind them of that person in college that poured water down their pants and they were embarrassed and they're like, I can't. No. And it's like,
they
something.
just need to get over that one.
Your pants were wet.
Grow some
You did
skin.
pee. You peed them. Yeah. No, but it's like, you'll never know. And it's just, you just have to, hey, this is what I have to offer and we got to keep going with it. It is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been dying to do this. Can we play a game of questions?
Yes. You got me.
Oh my gosh. No, we didn't start. That is not official. I have to tell everyone, when I asked him, I said, hey, tomorrow, can we play a game of questions? And he was like, you mean like the one they played on Whose Line? And I was like, yes. And immediately, as soon as I sent the text, I was like, I just lost. And he goes, you lose. And I was hollering by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, can we play a game? Okay. We haven't started yet.
Sure.
Okay. I'm never good at how do you start this game?
Well, generally for me, I like to get like a suggestion like what's an event where a lot of people gather together?
Okay. Producer Sam, what's an event where a lot of people gather together? What? What's an event where a lot of people gather together? Talking to Producer Sam.
Sumo fight.
Oh, sumo fighting, like
A sumo fight.
Sumo.
Oh, so you're watching a sumo fight.
Okay, we're watching a sumo fight.
Great.
Okay.
And so I just like to get,
That's great.
get a suggestion like that. And then it kind of paints a picture for you. So it's
Okay.
not just,
Let's see. Sumo wrestling. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like to start?
Man, I just nailed it. I lost just now because I paused too long.
Well, you have time to think.
We have time?
But I wasn't starting. I was
See, I was ready.
honestly
I was like,
asking.
he just started. Like, would you like to? I was like, oh, are you being a gentleman?
Yeah.
Like, I was going to go, okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
This is official. Here we go. Wow. Do you think they have popcorn here?
Oh, is this your first time?
Have you never seen me here at the sumo wrestling match?
Are your seats reserved?
Do you have more than one person sitting with you or is taking up 2 seats?
Do you know about the priority seats?
How do you spell priority? That was so bad. Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. Ugh, I want to play one more, but we gotta go. One more. We have one more.
One more round.
Okay, one more round. What's another? Producer Sam, what's another? That's good, like to get a place.
Yeah.
Gosh, what's another? Well, what's something else? A place? That's a good one though.
Yeah. What's an event you dread going to?
Okay, yeah.
An event I dread going to.
Yeah. Some sort of event you're like, I don't want to go to this. Producer Sam is thinking.
A funeral.
Oh, a
that's
funeral, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We
Well,
can do it.
Did you know the deceased? There's no laughing at a funeral.
It's because of your Did you know the deceased? I can't even do it. No, that's it. I can't. I'm gonna crack up. It's because he makes me laugh. Do you know the deceased? Have you been familiar with? Okay, Daniel, no, we'll play another time.
Why did you decide an open casket?
That is so sad. It's like, I just want you to just ask questions about the funeral. I can't even play. I'm one of the people that will like, you'll ask a question like, oh, did you know the deceased? I'm like, did you not know the deceased? It's like you get those like little cheat around questions. That's a fun game though. If anyone wants to try this game in their green room or in the break room or with your own manager or with a woman on the train, just try it out. She may not know what you're talking about, but...
Do you ride this train often?
Are you afraid of riding the train? What is wrong? Why can't I... It depends. It's like bowling. Sometimes you're good at it, and sometimes you're like gutter, gutter, gutter. Man.
Have you ever gotten a turkey?
I gotta go. I gotta go. Daniel, you've literally... Oh my gosh. Daniel, you live in a...
That's good gibberish.
I'm playing the game that y'all play. You've been great.
Thank you. It's been lots of fun.
I feel like I laughed myself into a drunken mess, and I haven't had anything to drink.
You've had some water.
Yeah. For those who know me best, I have this... Why am I trying to reach without looking at my water bottle? So I have a problem with hydration. I've been doing better this year, but I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to drink my water. With that said, Daniel, thank you for coming today. What is that? Daniel, really, thank you.
I was ready for another question.
I know. No, I got to practice again.
All right.
But speaking of questions, everyone, for questions and comments and topic suggestions, please, por favor, I'm practicing. Email us at greenroomtalks@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at greenroomtalks and on Twitter at GRT Podcast. I'd appreciate it. Is that right, Producer Sam?
That's right.
I got the thumbs up. Thank you again, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening and laughing along with us. And I hope you play questions as well. Have a good meal for yourself this week. You deserve it.
Medium rare.
Yes, medium rare. And if you want medium well, that's fine. But steak. Don't eat chicken medium. That's another story because here in Japan. All right, everyone. Thank you. I'm just going to go. But my name, once again, is Lauren Kay. Thank you for listening.